So y'all know I'm a Jeep guy, but my girlfriend bought this Bronco and it has a soft top, and it's really never all that secure when you're rocking a soft top. So today we're gonna be installing this Tuffy security deck in the back. This is the deluxe version where the lid opens up on it, and then she's gonna have a secure spot to keep all of her stuff. I do apologize for that fan noise in the background. I live right next to a grain drying tower, and for probably 3 months in the fall, I have to listen to this 24 hours a day, and there's really nothing I can do about it, but we're gonna push through. These brackets are stamped with an R and an L. You can see right there and right there, so you can't mess it up. Well, I don't want to say you can't mess it up, but you really shouldn't. Okay, so I happen to know that these cargo hooks have to come out. We'll hang on to all those, but these hooks come out, it's 10 mils, and then you can re-bolt them on top of the little brackets that go here, so you can retain these for underneath. And then the top deck has 4 more hooks, so you can tie down stuff up here. So all you really need is ratchet and socket to pull these out, but I'm kind of a tool junkie. My time is valuable, so I'm gonna use some power tools. One of the cool things about this, even though Tuffy makes this is officially licensed Ford product, so I think you can actually get this from the dealer if you want to. But you know, got the fancy Ford symbol on it, and I saw Bronco badging on at least one of the pieces. I'm gonna take a quick glance through the old constructions here, make sure I don't miss any stupid steps and have to backtrack. It's pretty simple. It's got parts layout, and then just, you know, pictures for those of us that don't like to read. Looks like you need a 10, a 13, and a 9/16 socket. Pretty straightforward. Those brackets have the R on them. As far as these side panels, I don't see one, but the one with the giant cutout is the right hand side. Some of these Broncos have like a speaker or a sub there. Amber's doesn't, it just has a cubby or whatever. Now there is some edge trim on this, which was popped off a little bit, so I had to pop that back on. But the next step is essentially to bolt these 2 brackets that also have the R onto them. The one that's like this goes back here, and those 2 holes utilize some bolts down into where we pull those cargo hooks from, and then this one will go there. These do have the square holes for carriage bolts, and the brackets lay on the outside of the bracket like that. So to bolt these brackets on, you need the shorter carriage bolts, a washer for each one, and then one of these thumb knobs for each one. And we're going to get it all bolted on there, but not tighten it yet. If you're putting these in the right spot, these holes would be toward the back here and toward the front there. If you've got your holes here, then you've got them on the wrong side. So the next step is take these spacers and you set them in here to where they're right above those holes, and you do all 8 of those, and then you can set these side panels down on that, and then take these longer hex bolts and you bolt through the side panel and down through here. But don't forget, you can also put your hook on top of there and bolt through all of it. So these hooks did come out a certain way. On these rear ones, the pointies were facing back. On the front ones, they were facing forward, so I'm gonna put them back the same way they were. Just gonna be using the bolts to get these spacers moved to where they need to be. And I would not recommend trying to use a power tool or anything to start these, because you might ruin the threads.
On a Honestly, I knew better than to tighten this stuff before everything was together, but for some reason I did it anyway, and I ended up having to loosen it back up.
And now I'm just gonna repeat the same thing over there. One thing to note over here on the driver's side, since we have a soft top, there is a couple wires that come up from, I guess they come out of the body and then go down right there. There's not really a cutout for them, so I don't know if this is gonna pinch them or if they'll be okay there. There is this little panel you can unbolt to access the little factory cubby. Personally, I wish they would have just left this open so you could still use that. I've just got these bolts loosely started down here, so I'll shove this thing where it needs to go, and I'm going to see if that's going to pinch those, or if I need to notch this out, or if I need to find a way to unplug them and run them through that. And with this pulled back, here's a better look at those wires. They go in and plug right into the side of that, so shouldn't be hard to unplug them if I have to, but I really don't want to have to run them through this, so I'm going to just hope that they're going to be fine up against this. I'll make sure they're not pinching or anything. There's a slight gap there, so those wires do look okay. However, once we put the front panel on that goes across here, these may have to get tweaked in or out. See, they've got wiggle room, so when I go to put that on, we'll see if it pushes it up against them really tight. Next up, we'll be putting this back panel in. It's got the same square carriage bolt holes right there to line up with the ones on the back of this. So for that reason, I really don't understand why they also give you this extra plate to sandwich it. Must just be to like really make it strong, because it seems to me like it would bolt through just fine without this. So there's going to be 2 bolts on each side, which will be these longer carriage bolts. Nuts will actually be inside of those holes on the side. You have to reach your hand in there. So we'll go ahead and get those all 4 installed loosely before we tighten anything. I don't understand why, if they made those all square holes, why this needs to be, because it seems to me like now the whole thing's just going to want to spin. Whereas without this, it would lock into that hole. So I'm not really sure on that. So the instructions mentioned the torque spec for those floor bolts by the cargo hook. Don't tighten that down. Don't tighten anything down until you've got it all hooked up. I went ahead and did it, and it's making these bolts like impossible to get lined up. So I just went back and loosened everything, and now I'm gonna see if we're any closer. Oh yeah, that looks much better. You know, it's funny because I do stuff like this all the time, and I know that's like the golden rule, but for some reason I did it anyway. This one is left, curved side toward the bottom, so this little lip will stick out that way. Just trying to get a whole bunch of stuff all lined up at the same time. There it goes. You take a washer and a nut, and there's a little access hole in there for you to get that on.
Admittedly, this was the most difficult part of the install, just because you're trying to get 3 sets of holes to line up at the same time, and I had to finagle with it quite a bit to get them all lined up.
So those are those access holes to get in there. There's one there, and one right here. That one, the nut's real close to the plastic, so it's kind of hard to get it started. We've got the top one in over here, just got to get the bottom one. So you can see on this last one, they're just slightly off from each other, but it's not too hard to tweak them into place, and then that one has to line up as well. I just got to figure out where I set that last bolt down. So we're getting ready to throw the lid in here, and you'll see there's a threaded hole right there. And so on each side you're going to have a bolt and a washer, and then it will go through the arm. But before you thread it into that hole, you put this plastic bushing right up against that. That way when it pivots, it's pivoting on this, it's kind of like nylon or Teflon. I'm kind of a stooge. I said there was an arm. It's not an arm, it's literally just the lid itself. This hole in the back corner of the lid goes into that hole. So, like I said, bolt and washer, and then the nylon one goes in between them. So you can just kind of hold it up in there. Gotta make sure the holes are lined up first. I'm not gonna tighten this yet, but I'm just gonna run it in a little bit so it doesn't fall out. So again, not tightening that up yet. You'll see on the side of this panel, we've got the little ball mount, and then there's one right there also, and that's for the gas shocks to lift this lid. Now we're going to install these gas struts, and it wants the skinny part down, and these are pretty straightforward. They just click right on. Just got to push pretty firm, boom, click. This one you'll have to either compress or lift the lid, which I guess I'm lifting the lid. I'm not sure how well that's going to work. Ooh, we might have a design flaw here. Well, apparently this doesn't work as good as I wanted with the soft top, because it runs into it and it runs into the arm. So this here's the lock mechanism, and there's a slot right here in the side. You just push that, and then it can't be lifted. So the only way in is through the tailgate. And I'm now realizing I have 8 lock washers left over, and those were supposed to go on the bolts that hold the cargo hooks and everything down. And since I still have those loose, I'll go ahead and add them on there real quick. They just go right under the heads of these bolts. Lock washer. Now we're gonna torque everything down. These are gonna be 18 foot-pounds. These are just gonna be hand tight. Those bolts inside of there are 25 foot-pounds. And then these ones up here for the hinge are 15. And we have one last piece of molding to go on the front of the deck lid, and then they give you these things to Velcro stuff to the molly panel, which I think is pretty cool. $15 foot-pounds for this one. I'm gonna see if I can get those ones tightened with one of these wobbly boys. Lastly, we've got this pinch on seal with this soft rubber thing. So this actually goes this way on that lip, so that soft rubber is facing towards that. You gotta push it pretty hard to get it all the way on there. Kinda the first part goes on easy, but then you really gotta work it to see how much farther down it got. So I'll be honest, I'm not a biggest fan of how this comes up and just hits the prop rod now. Is it possible that maybe if I just trim this tab off, like right straight across there, that it would probably clear, but I think it would still come up and eventually hit right here. And even if I move this out of the way, I still can't lift this any farther than however high you lift this top. And it only goes so high. If you try to lift it too high, it pops your windows out of the track here, which it's already done because I overlifted it. So this thing is definitely not the best for soft tops. The other downside to this is I was hoping that if we had to haul something that's a little bit tall, that you could have the top closed and have this open. So like if I had something that was kind of tall that needed to sit in there, I could just pop this open and set it there. But it will not open past this. So honestly, this thing is better suited for the hard top, but we're gonna make it work. And here is that seal fully installed, or just whatever, it's keep you from pinching your fingers. I don't know why it would be a seal because these are wide open. So now I had this WeatherTech cargo liner. I got a feeling if I want to still be able to use this, I'm going to have to trim the sides of it down a little bit just because this thing narrows it up a little bit. It also comes with 12 of these like Velcro straps to, you know, tie things up onto the molly panel. I don't really have anything at the moment to use these on, but basically any one of these holes you can, you know, maybe you have a fire extinguisher and you want to strap it on there or whatever. They stick pretty good too. I'm gonna have a hard time getting that off now. Okay, so just imagine for a minute you have no top on and you lock this with your fob and you walk away, and even your windows are down, let's say. Obviously the only way into this thing would be opening this. Well, what's to stop somebody from just reaching in and hitting the unlock button? But once you've locked it with the fob, it disables that. Look, you hit it, it even says switches inhibited security mode. Because I saw another comment where somebody said this thing is useless because somebody could just reach in and hit your unlock, but that kind of shows you it ain't gonna work. Now I'm gonna wait for another day to when it's a little bit lighter outside to give you guys kind of the big reveal. We'll do some close-ups and I'll give you my thoughts on it. So it's been about a month since I installed this thing in here. And you'll have to pardon all the dust because we go down gravel roads constantly. And now I will say I still did not come up with a solution for it hitting this. And I asked Amber if she wanted to go on camera and talk about what her thoughts on this whole thing were, but she declined because since, you know, we're going into winter time, she hasn't been running around with the top down to take the advantages. So to her, there's only been disadvantages because of how this won't open up. So on the inside, I just kind of stuck one of these here so, you know, you could get the idea of. We have a couple of first aid kits with molly straps on them, so we'll probably end up strapping one of those on here. Now this is not our adventure vehicle. This is her daily driver, but we did take this on a couple of road trips last year into the woods. So I was hoping to be able to take most of my gear and kind of organize it into here. One of the disadvantages I see is our fridge. If I can't open this lid, then if I put the fridge in here, then I can't open the fridge. And if I put it up here, on top of it, the lid would be way up in here, and that's just a fault of the Bronco's design. I was gonna give you a view from this side with the seats down, but got the car seats in here for my little nephews, so I really don't want to go through all that to fold the seats down. I will follow up and say this has not been a problem. I basically just adjusted this where there was enough of a gap for these to go through there. It's not pinching them or chafing them or anything. If for some reason it's different on yours, you can run them through this panel if you have to. So I've been thinking of ways to make this work with the soft top, and I think the way to do it is gonna limit the functionality of a little bit, and that is to cut this off along this seam. And then this might get a little wavy, so I might need to put a piece on the back to reinforce it a little bit. But if I had rid of all this, I think this would open up and clear this header channel on the soft top, but then when you close the tailgate, then there's going to be a gap that theoretically somebody could stick an arm down in there, and if you had something valuable in here that's small enough to fit through that gap, they could get it out. Realistically, I don't think that's going to be a problem, but honestly, I probably won't be addressing that until the next time we go to take this on the trip or something. Here it is a month later, and you can see there's the grain tower that's making all that stupid background noise, and it's still going. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that the bad design of the soft top on the Bronco, because honestly nobody likes this thing, that's making this product look bad, because honestly this thing's really cool and I really was looking forward to making full use of it, and it seems I'm gonna have to modify something to be able to do it, and I don't know how well it works with the hard top. So if somebody has one with that, feel free to chime that down in the comments. For now, we're gonna make the best of it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.